with them. As he said this morning, they have been through hell. So many families have lost loved ones on October 7th and will never be the same. President Biden and Vice President Harris have stood strongly in support of the people of Israel, and they made clear again today they are fully committed to the safety of the Jewish people, the security of Israel, and its right to exist. As both the president and the vice president said, we must bring the hostages home who are being held in Gaza. President Biden continues to work around the clock to try to reach a ceasefire and hostage release deal that would not only bring the hostages held by Hamas home to their families, but also end the fighting and alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people in Gaza, many of whom have been living in hellish conditions, and enabled a much-needed surge of humanitarian aid in Gaza. As we reflect on the past year and all that has happened since October 7th, we also mourn the loss of innocent life in Gaza, where tens of thousands of Palestinians have lost their lives as a result of the conflict that Hamas terrorism has unleashed. President Biden will never stop working to end the suffering of all people, and he continues the work to build the conditions for a lasting peace in the region so that after this conflict is over, Israelis and Palestinians can live securely side by side in a lasting peace with equal measures of safety, opportunity, and dignity. Now, moving on to the Hurricane Helene. President Biden and Vice President Harris continue to use every tool available to help communities devastated by Hurricane Helene. Over the weekend, President Biden ordered another 500 active duty troops to move into western North Carolina, in addition to the 1,000 troops the president previously ordered to deploy to the state. This is on top of the more than 6,100 National Guardsmen and over 7,000 federal personnel, all working together with their state and local counterparts to help people begin their road to rebuilding. Over the last few days, the administration has contacted nearly 450 state and local officials across the region to offer further support. And to date, this administration has helped thousands of Helene survivors just jumpstart their recoveries, providing over $210 million in direct financial assistance, with more coming every day. As the president has said, when it comes to this whole of government response, we are sparing no resource here. Unfortunately, scam artists and bad faith actors and others who are putting politics over people are promoting misinformation about our efforts, including falsehoods about federal assistance. This is wrong, dangerous, and must stop immediately. Elected officials at every level and on both sides of the aisle have also called for an end to these conspiracy theories. False information following a disaster can discourage people from seeking critical assistance when they need it the most. Everyone, especially those in positions of power, must do everything they can to encourage survivors to register for assistance, not discourage them by allowing these falsehoods to fester. Finally, the president was briefed yesterday and again today on the potential impacts of Hurricane Milton, which forecasts to become a Category 5 storm and make landfall Wednesday on the western coast of Florida. As with Helene, FEMA and other federal agencies are actively pre-positioning life-saving resources in advance of the storm, and earlier today the president approved Governor of Florida's request for an emergency disaster declaration, which unlocks additional federal resources to help the state respond to the storm. To everyone in the path of Milton, the time to prepare is right now.
Visit ready.gov or go download the FEMA app to make a plan
Today, the time is right now. Please, please, please listen to local officials. It could save your life. Now, the Biden-Harris administration is committed to preventing, detecting, and responding to health emergencies globally. On September 27th, Rwanda's Ministry of Health announced an outbreak of Marburg virus disease, MVD, and the Biden-Harris administration is working closely with the government of Rwanda to end the outbreak as quickly as possible. As we have all experienced in recent years, health emergencies are a global issue we must address together. CDC assesses that the risk of the infection with this virus in the United States is low, and there are currently no confirmed MVD cases outside of Rwanda. Since learning of this outbreak, the United States has committed to making nearly $11 million available to address urgent health needs in Rwanda and surrounding countries. And although there are currently no FDA-approved vaccines or drugs against MVD, the United States also contributed investigational vaccine and therapeutic doses, which arrived in Rwanda this weekend, just 1 week after we learned of the outbreak. In addition, to keep Americans safe, we are implementing additional precautions for a small select group of travelers arriving in the United States from Rwanda, including additional health screenings. These measures will advance ongoing efforts to protect public health and reassure the traveling public that the risk of MVD spreading during air travel is minimized. And today we saw the Supreme Court decision and what it means that women in Texas could still be denied critical emergency medical care because of the state's dangerous and extreme abortion bans. We have seen and have heard the horrific stories of women being denied the care they need because of these laws. Also today in Georgia, the state Supreme Court reinstated an even more extreme abortion ban. All of these laws were made possible when the former president handicapped 3 Supreme Court justices to overturn Roe v. Wade. They are creating chaos and confusion for women and doctors. The administration has been clear that all patients, including women experiencing pregnancy loss and other pregnancy-related emergency, must be able to access the emergency medical care they need, and that is required by federal law. The stories we hear of women being denied care they need in emergency situation is completely unacceptable. That's why the Biden-Harris administration has taken a number of important steps to make it easier for women to file complaints if they are denied this essential care and investigate and enforce federal protections under EMTALA. But our fight is not over. After the Supreme Court's order earlier this year, HHS issued a letter reminding hospitals and provider associations of their obligations under EMTALA, including providing abortion care as a necessary stabilizing treatment. We will continue to make those obligations clear. We will also continue to fight Republican elected officials' extreme agenda. And we'll continue to enforce federal law, support hospitals complying with the obligations, and defend the administration's long-standing view that women have the right to access the emergency medical care that they need. And with that, Amr, thank you for your patience, y'all.
Sure. If I could just follow up on 2 of your toppers. First, on the abortion access rulings today. Not much is going to change with the shape of the courts immediately after November. So what other avenues can the administration pursue in the little time that you have left?
As you know, when Roe v. Wade was originally overturned because of the Dobbs decision that was done more than 2 years ago, the president and the vice president took action. The president on that same day announced some executive actions that he was moving forward with, obviously with a whole of a government approach here. And so we've taken actions. We've taken this very seriously. I don't have anything to preview to you right this time at this moment, but we're going to take this very seriously, as we have for the past two years. And look, it is important. It is important for people to be very aware of what's at stake here. It is important for us to continue to voice what we're seeing here. Women being denied care and their lives being put at risk. And so we're going to continue to fight. As you know, there's EMTALA. There's other measures that the DOJ is using to protect doctors and also women who are looking for that care that they should be making about their own body themselves. And we're going to continue to call out these extreme agendas that we're seeing from the other side, from Republicans. Look, don't have anything to preview today, but it is important to call this out. It is important to say how dangerous this is, and how this is a freedom that has been taken away from women.
Just follow on storms. What's the confidence that FEMA is prepared to handle what could be two major disasters at the same time? Can you talk a little bit more about what they're doing specifically with Milton while they're still handling Helene? And then finally, there was a report, I believe it was NBC, just as we're coming out, that Governor DeSantis is dodging calls with Vice President Harris and President Biden. Is that an issue? Is politics starting to sink into this?
I mean, that's really for the governor to speak to, right? You've heard me mention, I believe in the gaggle last week when we were heading to Florida and Georgia, we invited the governor, right, to come and survey the damaged areas with the president. Obviously, we're in Florida. We invited the governor of Florida to come. It was his decision to not attend or not be there with the president. The president has reached out around Hurricane Helene. He reached out. It is up to the governor. It is really up to the governor. We know, I can say, and I think you've heard this from the FEMA administrator. She has been able to speak with the governor. She spoke with him yesterday in regards to Milton, that hurricane coming shortly. And so we have been in touch with state and local officials in order to be able to help the people of Florida who are going to be impacted, who were impacted certainly by Helene, and we're going to continue to certainly pre-position on the ground, and we're going to support. We're going to support the communities with whatever they need, and whenever. That is our commitment. That is our commitment to the folks who are going to be impacted. So we've been in touch with state and local officials in Florida, and we're going to ensure that we meet in advance what their needs are going to be. And FEMA's on the ground supporting that. So that's important. It's up to the governor. It is up to him. We are doing our part in the Biden-Harris administration, working, obviously FEMA's work is on the ground, all hands on deck, whole of the government, robust approach here. And so, again, that's for Governor DeSantis to speak to.
Is it accurate that the president and vice president have made outreach efforts and they have not been answered?
You've asked us, we have made outreach, and regarding certainly Hurricane Helene, and as I mentioned, the good thing is the FEMA administrator, was able to connect with the governor yesterday. I think that's important. But look, we're gonna do the work. We're gonna continue to talk to local and state officials. That is important as well. We're gonna pre-position as this Hurricane Milton is coming towards, as it seems, towards Florida. Category 5. That's nothing to joke about. That is very, very serious. And so we're taking this serious, as the president has done many, many times when we've seen these types of storms coming our way. So we're gonna do our job, do our work here. Go ahead.
Thanks, Karine. We're learning that DeSantis refused to take a call from Vice President Harris specifically around Hurricane Milton. Can you just talk about that and any communication around this new hurricane?
Look, that is something for the governor to speak to himself. If you have the president and you have the vice president reaching out to offer up assistance, provided to your constituents, the people who live in your state, to make sure we are doing everything that we need to do from a federal response, and we're reaching out, offering our support. That's for the governor. The governor is up to him if he wants to respond to us or not. But what we're doing is we're working with state and local officials to make sure that we are pre-positioned, to make sure that we are ready to be there for the communities that are going to be impacted. We are doing the job that is needed, that we believe is needed to protect the communities and to make sure that they have everything that is needed. You heard me talk about the declaration. We approved that for Florida. That's moving forward. And so we're taking this very, very seriously. That's for the governor to speak to. That is.
Trump and some of his Republican allies have been spreading misinformation about the federal response to Hurricane Helene. So what exactly is the White House doing to combat that misinformation? And can you just talk about the impact it's already having on the ground?
It's a great question. Combating misinformation and disinformation is always, always critically important. It is. You heard the laydown that I gave at the top. The reason I did that at the top is because we wanted to make clear that things are available to the public, folks who are impacted, and that misinformation, disinformation is indeed dangerous. It gets in the way in what we're trying to do here. It does. And there's been a lot of falsehoods. And let me just fact check a couple of things because it's really important. It is wrong, it is dangerous, and I also called out there are important people who have power, privilege, who are spreading these falsehoods, and they need to stop. They need to stop doing that. So, disaster relief, this is a falsehood. Disaster relief funds used on immigrants illegally in the U.S. The fact is, no money is being diverted from response needs. That's the fact. Another falsehood, FEMA confiscating Helene survivor property. That's false. That is not true. The fact is, FEMA cannot seize your property or land, period. Another falsehood that's out there, FEMA will only provide $750 to disaster survivors to support their recovery. That is a falsehood. That is not true. The fact is, this is an upfront payment for urgent needs like food and medication. Many survivors will qualify for more assistance. Another falsehood, FEMA, FAA are restricting airspace in North Carolina. That is not true. That's false. The fact is there are no airspace restrictions in North Carolina. So we're going to continue to combat these. It's important to combat them. But people who have a microphone and a podium should not continue to spread this falsehood. It is dangerous. It is incredibly dangerous.
Is the administration tracking that, having an impact on the ground in terms of people not seeking the aid they need? Because is that happening?
But that's a concern. That is a concern. And people who need help should seek help from the federal government. There is assistance out there. I talked about hundreds of millions of dollars already being provided to impacted areas. And now we have Hurricane Milton coming. We can't have this. We cannot. This needs to stop. This needs to stop. If you care about your constituents, if you care about the people, if you care about Americans, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't spread these falsehoods. It is dangerous. Okay.
Karine, did the president get an update from President Herzog when they spoke this morning about the Iranian response?
So, just a couple of things on that. And look, what you saw the president do is honor and commemorate lives that were lost, as I said at the top. And the president called President Herzog because he believed it was appropriate person for the president to call to express his condolences. It was a meaningful and important conversation. And so that's what they spoke about. It was focused on commemorating this incredibly sad day.
Okay, so there was not a detailed conversation about
I don't
Iran.
have anything beyond that. It was about offering up his condolences and what the Israeli people must be going through right now.
Hamas reiterated over the weekend that they see Netanyahu as being the stumbling block to a ceasefire deal. It seemed like the president's own remarks recently in the briefing room here kind of left open the opportunity for taking that analysis away as well. Does the president feel like he needs to speak with Prime Minister Netanyahu?
As the president said himself, there will be a call shortly, soon. I don't have anything to preview for you at this time. As you know, you hear us say this many, many times, they have decades-long relationship. And in those conversations that they do have, it's very honest, it's very frank, and that will continue. I don't have anything else beyond what the president stated at this podium on Friday or many times before about this particular issue. Look, we believe the best chance at getting these hostages home is through a ceasefire deal. That's what the president is directing his team to continue to work on, and that's going to be our focus. Okay.
Just given the projected path and strength of Milton that you were talking about, is any consideration being given to the president perhaps skipping his trip to Germany and Angola?
So the president is monitoring this very, very closely. I just talked about how he's gotten updates about the hurricane and obviously continuing to get updates on what is happening on the ground. after the horrible Hurricane Helene. And so that will continue. I don't have anything to share about a change in travels or his schedule. And so certainly if that were to be, we would share that with all of you.
Is that something that's been discussed at all, the possibility of
What I can
schedule?
say is that we are monitoring the hurricane, Hurricane Milton. As you just heard me at the top, it's going to be a Category 5. Our job right now is to make sure we make it very, very clear to folks who are on the ground to please listen to local officials, to please be ready and take this very, very seriously. And FEMA and other federal agencies are preparing or pre-positioning on the ground to offer up assistance and to be ready for when the hurricane hits. I just don't have anything to share about any change in schedule.
Just a quick question on the Middle East. Is the White House currently doing anything to actively push the Lebanon ceasefire proposal that you all announced a few weeks ago?
So look, what I can say is that look, when it comes to the proposal that you just stated, the 21-day proposal, what we believe is ultimately, and the Israelis have said this themselves as well, is that there needs to be an agreement that allows civilians to safely return to their homes on both sides of the border over the long term. So we're going to be having regular consultations with the Israelis, with the Lebanese, and others regarding the right moment to press for such an agreement. But ultimately, that's where we need to be in order for both sides, civilians on both sides, to return home.
When you say you're looking for the right moment to make a push for that proposal, are you saying that moment is not now, that you're not actively
I mean, we are in
pushing?
regular conversations. As I said, we continue to have those discussions with Israelis and the Lebanese on this particular issue. We believe that we need this. We need to have a space. I mean, you heard me speak about this, to have some space, some diplomatic dialogue in order to get there. And so, that's what you would need, is a ceasefire in order to get there. We're going to have those conversations, and we're certainly, when the right moment to press for such an agreement, we will do so. But the conversation, those discussions continue.
Okay, but it would be correct to say that the White House is not currently actively pushing on that proposal.
What I can tell you is we continue those consultations with the Israelis and the Lebanese. That's what I can share. Go ahead.
Thanks, Karine. Following up on the president's trip, can you just explain a little bit why the president is taking these trips now? There's less than a month before the election. What is he trying to accomplish?
I mean, look, you've heard us talk about the importance of this travel. He's going to be going to Germany, obviously, and also Angola. The president's certainly looking forward to that travel. And I would say that, we, as it relates to, I mean, each of them is very different than the other. But we think it serves as a powerful symbol of the U.S.-Germany partnership as you think about the German piece of this trip and our close cooperation on the world's most pressing challenges. And so, and to ensure our people have every opportunity for safety and prosperity. And what this visit is going to do, it's going to underscore the deep commitment and that transatlantic security, resolute support. If you think about Ukraine and the self-defense of Ukraine, that's going to be a big part of this visit, and continuing that support, continuing to do everything that we can to stop the Russian aggression. And so that is going to be certainly a big part of that. Continuing contributions to meet the NATO pledge also is going to be a big component of that. And so this is important as we see what's going on in Ukraine, as we continue to see Russia's aggression, to have that conversation. You have seen the president's leadership when it comes to Ukraine and what he's been able to do to make NATO stronger, to have more than 50 countries support Ukraine in their fight against that aggression of Russia. And so that's a big part, certainly will be a big part of that trip. And when it comes to Angola, there's going to be a bilateral meeting that the president will have, and this speaks to the U.S.-Africa relationship that we want to continue, that we want to strengthen, and so that's what you're going to see. They're two important relationships that is very much connected to what this president has done over the 3.5 years, if you look at his global leadership, and the president's so very much looking forward to it.
This way.
Yeah, sure.
He could have taken these trips after the election. I mean, he could have taken them in December or January before he leaves office. So what is so urgent about
There's
this
not-
moment that he needed to do it in October?
I appreciate that, but there's not a lot of time. There really isn't. 3 months is going to fly by. There's not a lot of time. And so the president wanted to get this done. We had said, as it relates to Angola and going to the continent, the president had made a commitment and a promise to go to Africa, to continue to show his commitment to that relationship. And that's what the president wanted, to keep that promise. And so 3 months is not a lot of time. And so this was the right period of time to go to get that done. And we're also going to go to Germany, as I talked about, that NATO, continuing that NATO pledge, continuing what we're doing for Ukraine as they're fighting against Russia's aggression. All of these things are really important to our relationships with those partners, but also to what we're trying to do on behalf of this country, on behalf of Americans. And so 3 months is not a long time. As you know, that's going to fly by. That's going to fly by.